Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I'm just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at 10 newer releases for you to watch and stream today. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get right into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with a movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. So whether you're chilling with the app, your brain, pen and paper, let's get right into some new movies. The first movie we're going to look at this week is a drama horror thriller called Ghosts of the Void, and it's available on VOD Digital. Spending the night in her car, a nearly homeless woman wrestles with exhaustion, her crumbling marriage, and the threat of mysterious, masked strangers. It is directed by Jason Miller. So after watching the trailer for Ghost of the Voids, it did seem like a half-decent slasher. The killer looked fairly menacing, and I did like the mask that he wears. It does look kind of interesting. It doesn't look like it really breaks any barriers. It's a slasher out in the woods. We've seen that plenty of times before. I think this one's going to be mid-tier on the watch list.
What do you want? I'm living out of my car. I have nothing left to give you.
Next, we're going to look at a straight horror called Where the Devil Roams, and it's available on VOD Digital. Traces a family of murderous sideshow performers as it travels around the world on the dying carnival circuit. It is directed by John Adams, Zelda Adams, and Toby Poser. After watching the trailer for Where the Devil Roams, this looks like a really good, bloody, cult gory type slasher. I was intrigued on the premise of this one. It almost features like this witch who can sew body parts back on or sew them back together. From the trailer, you can tell that they're in some sort of open circus or the sideshow like the write-up kind of explains. Either way, the trailer looked incredibly gruesome with tons of dismemberment and gore. So I'm assuming they go around traveling sideshow. You see a point where he's cutting off one of his own fingers. And then I assume that she's able to sew these body parts back on and make people whole again so they can have this really gruesome show, which means you're probably in for a really gruesome kind of movie. This is going to be an A-tier watch list item for me for sure.
When the road is mean, blood will thicken. The devil's pulse begins to quicken, while the body rots to dust and bones. There's a tear in the heart. Where the devil roams.
Next, we're going to look at a sci-fi action horror called Bloodthirst, and it's available on VOD Digital. In a post-apocalyptic world run by vampires, only the strong survive. John Shepard, vampire hunter, is one of them. John has to track down and eliminate the master vampire before he himself gets turned. It is directed by Michael Su. After watching the trailer for Bloodthirst, this looks like an incredibly cheesy vampire movie. The acting is questionable, and just some of the themes in this movie really did look terrible. From even the kind of costumes, the very white-faced vampires, it just looks really hokey. It looks like it's an post-apocalyptic story, and it's just vampires running around what looks like a desert, almost Mad Max-ish. I guarantee this one will have no scares and creeps. You can just tell from the trailer. I'm not even sure if this movie is really gory that would really save it. So this is probably going to be F tier for me for sure.
Oh. Let her go. God will damn you for this.
Next, we're going to look at a straight horror called The Elderly, available on VOD Digital. Octogenarian who enters into a state of dementia after the sudden suicide of his wife, sparking a series of paranormal events that will put his family's lives at risk. It is directed by Raul Cerezo and Fernando Gonzalez Gomez. Okay, after watching the trailer for The Elderly, it definitely reminds me of the movie called Old People, but with just a more post-apocalyptic end-of-the-world type of vibe. This is a Spanish movie, so we might get some brutality from it because you know some of the foreign films are way more brutal than some of the Western films for sure. But I wasn't exactly intrigued by the story or enamored by any of the characters in the trailer. There was some gross imagery, so that could be a small glimmer of hope or something to latch onto. This is mid-tier watch list.
Llevan mucho tiempo observándonos.
Aquí esto parece una casa embrujada. Que tu padre está en caída libre y va a terminar por arrastrarnos a todos.
Veo sus sombras en el reflejo, en mis sueños. Mañana vais a morir.
Next, we're going to look at a comedy horror called Project Z, or Project Z, and it is available on VOD Digital. A group of film students take 300 unemployed actors to a disused motel in the Norwegian mountains to make zombie films. It is directed by Henrik Martin Dalsbakken. After watching the trailer for Project Z, it does look like a decent found footage that could have some good jump scares in it. I like the take on filming a zombie horror, and some of the dialogue did make it seem like it did have some genuinely funny moments. It's a Norwegian film, so you are getting a bit of foreign subtitle with this one. This one is also just going to be mid-tier for me.
Tack. Då bryter vi där. Vi må ta den med det.
Jag ser det som mora mi på norr idag, det är bra.
Next, we're going to look at the horror mystery movie Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor, and it's available on SHUDDER. A group of cold case investigators stay at the Carmichael Manor. After 4 nights, the group was never heard from again. What is discovered on their footage is even more disturbing than anything found on the Hell House tapes. It is directed by Stefan Cognetti. After watching the trailer for Hell House LLC Origins, I have to start out by saying that I am a little bit biased on this one. I do love the Hell House LLC franchise, and I think the first Hell House LLC is creepy as hell, especially if it's the type of movie that you watch at night with the lights off. It just has great tension, super creepy. If you like found footage, I guarantee that you'll be creeped out by that movie as well, so go back and watch Hell House LLC. That being said, I am looking forward to this one, obviously. It looks like it has some good creeps, and I'm already invested and interested into the franchise, so I'm ready to kind of delve deep into Carmichael Manor and learn of some of Hell House's origins. This movie is definitely going to be S tier for me.
The Carmichael Manor is home to a grisly murder that occurred right upstairs from where I stand. Half the family murdered, while the other half is still missing.
Next, we're going to look at another straight horror movie called When Evil Lurks, available on VOD Digital. In a remote village, 2 brothers find a demon-infected man just about to give birth to its evil self. They decide to get rid of the man, but they merely succeed in spreading the chaos. It is directed by Demian Rugna. Okay, full disclosure, I've actually already seen this movie, but after watching the trailer, it brought me back to just how great of a film this is. It's dark, it's gritty, it's gory, with an extremely unique take on a possession film, and I fully suggest that you watch this movie immediately. This is one avant-garde style horror that you definitely shouldn't miss. It's contender for movie of the year, and it's an S tier watch for sure. Next, we're going to look at another comedy horror called Shaky Shivers, and it's available on VOD Digital. Two young women find themselves at an abandoned camp in the woods with a book of magical spells, surrounded by classic monsters in this comedic send-up of an 80s horror film. It is directed by Sung Kang. After watching the trailer for Shaky Shivers, this looks like another zany horror comedy. And unfortunately, as you all know, those just aren't my favorite. The trailer looked like it had some alright jokes, but nothing that really got more than a slight smile on my face. The saving grace is that the trailer claimed that you had to be 21 to watch it, so we could get some extremely brutal, raunchy gore in this movie, which could save it. This one will be lower on my watch list for sure.
I killed Eric.
Next, we're going to look at a horror mystery called Impuritus, and it's available on VOD Digital.
Honestly.
A police detective, Clayton Douglas, is summoned to a remote hospital to witness a mysterious Civil War veteran's outrageous deathbed confession that forces him to accept the supernatural. It is directed by Mark Urinenko. After watching the trailer for Impuritus, I'd say that this actually looks like a pretty creepy movie. It has a lot of creepy imagery, and the case, even from the trailer, looks pretty intriguing. I like the heavy supernatural vibes, as those are my favorite kind of horror movies. They creep me out the most, and Tom Sizemore actually looks pretty good in this movie. This one is probably A tier when it comes to watch list for me.
Thank you for coming. We have a patient here named Daniel Glassman. Does that name stir up anything?
I don't think so. Who is he?
Where do I start? He's the most deranged and mysterious man I've ever met.
I'll assume that's really saying something.
Lastly, we're going to look at a horror mystery thriller called The Latent Image, and it's available on VOD Digital. A thriller writer finds his story coming to horrifying life when a mysterious drifter arrives at the door of his isolated cabin. It is directed by Alexander McGregor Burrell. Unfortunately, after watching the trailer for Latent Image, it just didn't quite grip me. It's like a slasher, but it appears to have quite an erotic underpinning to it. It does look like it's all male relationships, and while that doesn't take away from the movie, it's just something you don't see often, so I did want to mention it as like kind of a unique point about the movie. It did look like it had a fair amount of blood in it, but just blood, and as a gore hound, if you're just going to show me some blood spilling, I mean, that isn't gory to me, that's just blood, so I just don't see interesting kills in this one. This one's going to be lower tier for me for sure.
What are you writing?
A novel. You could call it a mystery thriller type thing.
That's brutal.
You read it. He deserves it.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another one of these videos. I hope you found some good movies to add to your watch list. If I had to pick two movies, the first one, it's easy. It's go watch it immediately. When Evil Lurks. That is a must-see movie that you can't miss. The next book I would have would be Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor. I've just been looking forward to that movie for a long time. I haven't seen it yet. Probably going to watch it tonight as of the filming of this video. If they are as creepy as the first one, I just love them, this franchise. This is going to be an amazingly creepy watch. Since the first two picks are fairly well known, I'm going to go with one pick that maybe is kind of off the beaten path, and that is going to be Where the Devil Roams. It just looks super gory, and I'm interested in the premise. Just the traveling circus element and the sewing of body parts, it just looks like it can be completely brutal. And yeah, those are going to be my picks. So again, if you found this interesting or enjoyed this content, please sub up, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.